Okay. Hello. You have to let me know if the music is too loud. I don't know. I don't have a good grasp on levels. I'm going to turn it down a bit though. It looks loud. Hi, Timothy. Thanks for subscribing again. I think I'm getting close to a Twitch payout so I can funnel this guy's money somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah, okay. It does look kind of loud. Let me turn this down a bit. I'm going to turn it down in my ears too. I went with dreamy mood in epidemic sound, so all right, yeah, this is way too loud in my ear. There we go. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about full site editing. I'm trying to keep track of various chats, but hopefully I'll be able to do it. Yeah, I guess let's just get into it. So let's see, for background, I have not looked at full site editing in a very long time. I think long enough that it's fair to just say that I'm looking at this with fresh eyes. And that's how I'm going to try to approach it anyway, right? Like, what would this feel like to me as somebody who has like no idea, no context for like broader WordPress development? Just like somebody who's using it for the first time. And yeah, and we have, I think, you know what, I should probably make sure. I feel like this was published, but let me check. Thanks for following. Hello. And thanks for managing all this crazy stuff. Where was it? It was like the 5.8. Okay, WordPress 5.8 pre-planning. Thank you for following. Off that lively post status chit chat about these wild this headphone campaign that's going on. All right, so 5.8 pre-planning. This is a proposed schedule. Sometimes I'm not even sure what's going on. But in here, there's a very clearly stated, kind of buried, but very clearly stated, first FSE, full site editing, go, no-go date, April 13th, which is in a week. So yeah, I think now is a great time for me to take a real look at it. I stream this because I can, first of all, and second of all, because I feel like it's really important to be transparent about how stuff is looked at, how decisions are made. I think, in the absence of that, it's really easy to believe that they're like, conspiracies or like people back channeling in a room. And it's like, I've literally not talked to anybody about this except Anne, telling her that I'm like streaming. Otherwise, like I don't talk to people about this stuff. You may be shocked to discover that my casual conversations do not involve WordPress. Oh, hey Sergey, how's it going? What time is it for you? I don't, because I'm in UTC -6, currently the equivalent of US Mountain Time, I guess. I feel like it has to be really late for you. There's a life outside of WordPress. Yeah, I very distinctly do not talk about WordPress in my free time. I love what I do. I think I'm really lucky to work on something that's, like interesting to me, but no, I do not talk about WordPress as at work. Okay, so yeah, we have a week. And I think that, being that the first no-go date is next week, we should be in a pretty good place to look at it, right? So Anne just sent me this link not too long ago. High level feedback from the testing program that they have going on, which is pretty cool. The outreach program. UTC +3, so 9 hours. Yeah, I guess it's still like a decent time for you. Sometimes like I have a coworker in like UTC plus it's got to be +8, I guess. And sometimes I see them online and it's like, no, you have to go to bed. Yeah, hacker time. So yeah, this is high level feedback. I have not actually read this yet, so we'll skim it. So previewing content is difficult. Preview site options currently under discussion, along with exploring a possible browsing mode. Got it. So browsing mode, I guess, would kind of be like the customizer, where you can move around and like customize different things around your site. Because of the like conditional, or like the customizer can show or hide sections based on what actually shows on the screen. And then preview site option. This kind of ties into something I think about sometimes. I'm getting too deep already, but like, how do you preview stuff like featured image changes in like other contexts outside of a single post? I always feel like that's like a very interesting and difficult problem to try to solve, because like the last time I talked to somebody about it, I talked to a Drupal person about it actually, and he said that like it's also like an unsolved problem in their space. So let me turn down my mic gain a little bit. 1 second. Okay, sorry, I keep seeing the meter like blowing out to red, and that seems bad. So Next.js. Okay, hi Courtney. I'll have to take a look at that. I haven't. There are a lot of things that I haven't looked at in a long time, so it would be good to take a look at like what do people do about like contextual previews. Okay, saving process, confusing behavior, multi-entity saving is a new concept. Okay, distinction between editing the entire site and specific content. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, that's one around clarifying template versus content editing. Okay, rethinking width alignment. Currently, it works to optimize traditional themes that provide their own alignment styles. Okay, we'll see what that means. I don't even know what that means right now. I'll find out. And general usability, site icon. Oh, blocks. Oh, blocks are just like one word. Top toolbar settings. Okay, so various little things. So hopefully, like, I imagine that a lot of what I'll see has already been caught and, you know, noted somewhere. So my goal here is not to like try to report as many bugs as possible. It's just to get like an overall feel for how things are going, and, you know, do I feel like this is in a good enough place to ship, you know, the initial core version, right, that sort of thing. So yeah, and I want to understand like how themes do this stuff a little better. Okay, so here's what I have set up. I have Gutenberg installed. I have it installed from GitHub. I actually, you know what I should do? I should probably find out. Okay, so they use trunk. Hang on. If not cut, you will report it. Great, that helps me a lot. So they have, okay, it is just trunk. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so I have Gutenberg checked out on trunk. So I may be ahead of where like the actual plugin is too, just because like I do use trunk, and so. Whoa, sorry. I hit the wrong button here. Let me set this correctly. So yeah, so here, let me navigate in. My computer is lagging like crazy. Okay, so yeah, so here, Gutenberg trunk, you can see. So this I pulled yesterday. So I'm apparently already a little bit behind, but I don't want to pull it and rebuild on stream because it takes for freaking ever. So I'm gonna not do that. So yeah, so I have Gutenberg running close enough to trunk in Gutenberg. And then what I have for themes, hello, themes, experiments. So I have theme experiments checked out. You can see there's these themes. That's probably very small on stream, so I'll show it here. Theme experiments. So there's a theme experiments repo, and you just, if you clone the whole thing into the themes directory, it'll pick up all of them. It's fine, because you can have themes and subdirectories. I don't know. So yeah, so now all of these are in my themes directory. So I have all these different block-based themes to play with. So yeah, so there's like photo blocks, empty theme, 2021 blocks, all that kind of stuff. So here, let's head into my admin, I guess. I have Gutenberg activated, and you can see I have like other random things installed. I have web stories installed from my little joke about stories coming to WordPress that apparently isn't a joke. And then under appearance themes, I chose 2021 blocks. So this is the one that I have activated, but like I could have used starter blocks or photo blocks or whatever. But I'm going to start with 2021 blocks. We'll just start there. Maybe we'll get into some other themes. So once I activated this, I did do this last night, just again, so that I wasn't doing like the whole build and everything on stream because it takes so long. But when I first activated this, I have like admin menu blindness. So I totally didn't even see this site editor item. And I was like, oh, there's like templates and template parts. Let's click in there. And I click in template parts and it's like, I don't know what this is. And then I clicked on the theme editor because I was like, oh yeah, there's like a theme editor, right? And then I got this message. I think I tweeted this last night. Like, this is a thing that I made and I really like it. It's like, don't do this. Did Jetpack use my code? No. My code was bad. My code was just like, I directly edited like WP admin index and just like shoved it in the top. I was just doing bad stuff. I was being silly. To include the lyrics, I don't like the lyrics to Hello Dolly, so I'm gonna not do that. That's not my thing. Okay, so I didn't know what templates or like template parts were. Currently in process to see where the site editor entrances will be. Let's click on this. Trusting your links. Oh, cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. See, here's a spammer. What do I do with spammers? I ban them. Yes, that's what happens. Okay. Hi everybody. Thanks for subscribing and thanks for following. Wow, there's a lot of people here. Everybody's interested in full site editing, I guess. Hi. Hello. Oh, nice. Yeah. If you have a Prime subscription, you can completely use it on me, and I will take any proceeds from that. I have not yet hit the Twitch payout point, but I will take any proceeds once they start paying me out and be donating them. And Bezos bucks, that's right. That's what we should call them. But yeah, I will be donating that money. I actually am currently working with somebody, a friend. It's really her initiative, but on a nonprofit initiative for paying off school lunch debt. So it will almost certainly go there because I'm going to be the VP of the board, because when you file a nonprofit thing, you have to have a board, and so it's also something that I feel very passionately about. So yeah. That is almost certainly where free or your paid subscription dollars will go. Yeah. Okay, so this link, what are we doing? Entry points for full site editing. Cool. I'll take a look at this later. This is probably like too much to do on stream. But yeah. So like I was just like, oh, what are these templates and template parts? That's new. And that's because like I'm an existing user and I'm super used to this part of the, you know, your settings. So it's like, oh, what do I do here? And then I think what I did was I went to the front. So I always use the toolbar links to navigate back and forth. That was the thing that really got me into using WordPress in the first place. It was when the toolbar was in beta and I was like, oh, this makes it like way easier to use. It's like a site admin to like navigate back and forth and like edit pages and stuff. So I went here and I was like, oh, now there's like an edit site thing. Although it kind of blends in a weird way because everything else has an icon and then this one doesn't. So it's like, is this a mistake? Is it supposed to be here? I don't know. What does edit site mean? But yeah, so you can like click here or else, yes, there's like a whole item here in the admin. So I'm going to close this tab. So if I click on the site editor, now we're getting into things I don't know anything about. So it loads us up. These are purely live thoughts. This is very much the Gutenberg UI and it's taken its sweet ass time. Sorry, language. Taking its sweet time loading this in. Wow, that takes a long time. And this is a local install, so I'm not really sure why that took so long. What if I refresh it? Let's see. So it loads the Chrome. Yeah, I get like no feedback that anything is happening here. I don't know if like, I don't know if that takes just as long in other contexts, but you'd think that local testing is as fast as possible. So that seems not ideal. That's all right. So we have Gutenberg UI. Oh, okay. You cannot see my mouse cursor, right? I don't think I've ever figured out how to show my mouse cursor on stream. But hopefully you'll get a sense of where I'm mousing over. And hopefully, the other thing is, hopefully my stream today does not cut out video so often because I just ran an Ethernet cable from my office down the hallway to the actual box where all that stuff is. So no more Wi-Fi because I did a ping test earlier and Twitch drops like a third of my packets. So, but it doesn't do that. Am I using display capture? I'm using window capture. Yeah. It seems slower than yours. Okay. I mean, I'm on a pretty beefy Mac Mini, so I don't know. But display capture captures mouse. Okay. I actually do have this. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Get in presenter mode. Okay. Well, I'm using Streamlabs OBS, so it's pretty good. Let me just make sure all the other things are emote wall, chat box, alert box, face cam, top left quad. Great. Okay, so now you can see my mouse. Sweet. I should probably set this to a keyboard shortcut. Hang on one second. Just so that I don't, so I can flip around scenes, WP Slack. It's apparently F16, so I want to set this one to F16. Okay. Oh, great. So my stream is more stable. Okay, yeah. So this is like when it's just window capture, and then this is when it's display capture. Sweet. So good to know. Yeah, I'm really hoping that running a cable will do better because like also Zoom has been completely unusable for me for like the last 2 days. I thought yesterday was like because 3 of us were on video at the same time, but that it was still bad today. So that's when I was like, okay, forget it. I'm just gonna run this cable. Cool. So showing my mouse. Good to know. I've learned. So you can see where my mouse is. And that... Oh, so has Zoom just been bad? Oh, man. And you can see like where I'm mousing over. Okay. That is pretty chill. You Gigabit and Zoom kept blaming you. All right. Good to know. Nobody else on my call said that they were having problems, so I just kind of assumed it was me because, like, because I'm in Costa Rica. So, like, my internet's fine, but it's like 100 down, 12 up or something. It's not like symmetric like you have in the US. So, oh yeah. Okay, so probably not. Zoom's just being bad. Now I feel better. Now I feel like, okay, maybe it's not just me. Yeah, that's what I was like, okay, just let me type into chat instead. Okay, so I have no idea like what these boxes are. I can add a block here, but I don't know what this block is. This is obviously my site title. What? It has like the little clicky pointer. Okay, but it's okay. I feel like that should be a text cursor. I'm in Firefox, by the way, just in case Anne wants to know. I'm in Firefox, and having the clicky cursor made me really nervous. Like I felt like I was gonna click on it and it was gonna try to navigate away or something. I can change the heading level. Interesting. Okay, so this is a column apparently. Change block type. I can transform stuff even though... okay, so yeah, I would expect that to be a text cursor. And I feel like it should probably tell me like what it's gonna link to, even though like you can't change it, but it should probably tell you what it's linking to. Yeah, I think it should, right? This is my site title. So like Slack video over Zoom video. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna hit update. Let's just find out. Select the changes I want to save. My site. This is my site title. Okay, so I know that this is what I typed. The bottom bar says, okay, document header, columns, site title. Okay, so that's good. But I do feel like it should tell me here. Like, maybe not the icon, but like maybe if I click on it, maybe it should tell me something somewhere. This is like the select a level up, but this one, I feel like it should tell me. Okay, so this is my site title. I don't know if it should I don't think you could necessarily show previous values, but in this case, this is very like, I don't know. It's a little like opaque. Like, what is this? What does this mean? Like, I don't want to know technically which option it is, but I should probably know that this is like the title of your site. Okay, so save it. What happens if okay, so this is preview just for this. So to actually preview it, I guess I have to just open a tab. Yeah, mine's pretty chill. It shows up. I don't know. Oh, it shows up here too. Okay, index and says I'm in the header. But like, okay, so I don't know what this box is. Like, what is, this is a spacer. Oh, so it just like literally has a spacer up here? So what happens if I can't right click? Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, hopefully people can see like, I always say like I'm literally just a regular user when it comes to WordPress. Don't let me struggle. Don't help me figure out how to use it. But we can, like, if you've had other issues related to my struggles, we could talk about it. Yeah, I say regular, but like I really am. Like when I like I was talking to people about my hosting stuff a while back, and people are like, oh, you know, you can use like DigitalOcean or whatever, and like have VPSs or whatever. And it's like, listen, man, like I use the freaking one-click installers for WordPress. Like I don't do anything. It's not that I don't know how. It's that I don't want to. Like I have zero desire to do this in my free time. Like I said, I don't talk about WordPress in my free time. So like when I need to spin up a site, it's like I use the same one-click installers that like your average targeted customer does. So I think of myself as like relatively normal when I'm using stuff. Yeah, exactly. So like in changing this, like I know that this is a site title because like I don't know, because I've been using WordPress for so freaking long, but like what if I just like arbitrarily want this to be something different on like my homepage or something? Like I don't know, like it's not super clear to me that this is changing it site wide, right? So like maybe on the save thing it would be like, yeah, this is saving it site wide, or it's only saving it for this context or something. Okay, so what happens, like, let's say I remove this spacer. Okay, I mean, you can. But then what if I wanted to put something back, like, above it? How would I be able to do that? And, like, what if I remove this one too? Let's find out. So let's say I remove all these spacers. Okay, I'm still in the header. So there's just, like, randomly a paragraph here. Does that mean it's gonna keep that? Okay, let's update. Okay, but it was already selected, so like why did it give me this select thing? And then when I toggle this off, it still says selected. Oh, I see. Oh, okay. So this is like select, like view it. Maybe that's like show selection or something. That's really confusing because I thought that was selected like tied to this checkbox. Okay, and this time it says I've made changes in the header, but it doesn't tell me like what changes I've made. I guess that's fine, but I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna go back and refresh this. Okay, cool. So yeah, so now it's like there's no space. So what if I'm like, oh no, that was a mistake? What happens if I hit like undo? Oh, okay, so undo works, redo works. But let's say like I'm on a fresh thing. So like, and it's still confusing to me that there's this like this here, and I'm like, is this gonna stay? Is it gonna keep holding that space? It doesn't. So this is like not really a one-to-one preview. Like it's still holding space for this block, and it's like, I don't really understand that. Okay, so I can add a block there too, but I cannot add a block above. So to do that, I would have to be like, okay, I want a spacer. And then I guess I could move it. Yeah, I can move it up. So let's make it like mad tall. Make it 200 tall. Okay, so there's a spacer. And then, oh. Okay. I see. Yeah, so I don't have anything here right now. I have like no content. That's probably not very promising. So I have like no content when I'm trying to do this. So I guess this cool little thing is just a placeholder. It looks cool. I like it. It's very pretty. So if I click on it, you can start empty or add all pages. So I add all pages, and then I can add, oh cool, so I can like add social icons, post link, custom link, page list. Oh, it's like a list of all the pages. Okay, how do I delete? I don't know. Did that erase the right one? I don't have no idea. What if I put like a little spacer? Okay, so if I put a spacer and then I hit backspace. I see, so when I hit backspace then it went back, but it then selected the previous one. Okay, so let's say I wanted to add like a spacer, and then, oh, why is there this icon down here? What is that for? I'm so confused by this. There are too many plus icons right now and I'm very confused. Like, okay. Then I want to add search. That looks really ugly. Is it really gonna look like this on the front? Like you would think that this would not be there. Oh, I can, does that mean I can type in a placeholder? Is this a placeholder? Go. So it inserts this. That seems wrong. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just update it. So it says I've updated the index template, but I don't know what that means. What did I update? I thought I was still just in the header. I didn't change anything else. Is this spacer in the header? Yeah. The spacer's in the header. Why does it say I've changed other stuff? I don't understand this part. Okay, so I don't know what I've changed in here. And it says that I've changed. Should spacer block have... Oh yeah, the placeholder was left aligned, menus right aligned. Yeah, that was also weird. Random things showing up as dirty happens to you all the time. Okay. And then should the spacer block have different breakpoint options? Yes. Does it not? Because I don't have this open. Hang on. Settings. So height and pixels, advanced. Interesting. Okay, yeah, it totally doesn't. I guess that's something a plugin could probably provide for now, is like what to do with it in different breakpoints. I mean, that's very, very easily running into like very bloated CSS though, right? So, I mean, maybe it should be like height and like relative to something else or something. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is, so here's something. Yeah, list of things that have changed. That's, yeah. So I'm going to talk about one thing, which is that I have been doing a lot of work on like what's good block UX, like what are some best practices around that, like on the agency side of things, right? And what I've been talking to people a lot about is that there's still this habit of like shoving things into the sidebar. So like instead of using like a rich text component in a custom block, people will still just like make the block itself like a freaking server-side render or something, which, and they just put the settings in the side panel, and it's like, listen, there are a bunch of things going on here. One, the whole point is that you're supposed to be able to edit like in line, right? Like that's supposed to be the power of this editor. And the other thing is that in the move to full site editing, right? Like we have to get used to this idea that we should be able to manipulate the basics, the things that need like constant futzing. We should be able to do those things like right in line and not have to open the sidebar panel, because the idea is that you approach this true immersive editing experience, right? And we're seeing that here, where the sidebar is not open by default. It doesn't stay open. And that's the idea, is that like even with your custom blocks, that stuff in the sidebar should be things that like maybe you set once or like advanced settings or something, but everything else that can be typed is like in line, right? So yeah, so if I hit update, it would be really nice for this to list out like maybe even like a show changes thing, right? Where then it gives you more advanced information, and it doesn't necessarily need to be like typical user parsable to start. I feel like it's okay if it starts as something that still looks like kind of technical or jargony, because this is like a, you know, for the moment I would still consider this like a power user type of feature, but yeah, it would be nice for this to be like, this is what I think that you changed, right? Because like right now I have no clue, and here it's saying header, and it's like I'm reasonably certain that you know that the thing that I changed in the header is like I added like new blocks and changed the like this menu area thing, you know, so like it has to have some awareness. I think because everything is a block, it's a little like, yeah, okay, you changed blocks, duh. There's not a confirmation message. Okay, so yeah, so it'd be nice. I don't know if like highlighting, I mean, it says like you can select, but again, I feel like, yeah, select should be like highlight. And like, how do I unhighlight it? And you cannot discard a save. Okay. Okay, I saved this. That's not what happens. Okay. So I have my big spacer. There's a person who shows up to my stream sometimes who like really hates this theme because because everything's so big. This giant space is for you, random person who joins my streams to complain about 2021. Okay, so it really did like. So what do you mean you can't discard it to save? Like, couldn't I like refresh the screen and just be like ignore their changes? Okay, so this is sort of annoying. Like, I feel like this is a bad initial experience. Like, it inserts the search with the header into the menu, and that feels like not correct. Like, this is really ugly in a menu, and that's not at all what I expected to do. I would also, quite frankly, expect the theme to do something better with the search in a nav menu. Like, I was expecting it to be that cute little icon that was in the placeholder. Okay, and then, yeah, and it doesn't match, actually, the front end. Like, this output, like, there's a underline missing, and this box is too tall. The inputs here are too tall. And then this placeholder text, the reason why I wasn't sure if it was a placeholder is because the text is black, right? And the actual placeholder here is like gray, and then it does show as gray here. It's like, that was also very confusing to me. It's like, if I type something here, does it stick? Or like, am I just like randomly typing into an input that doesn't do anything? I don't know. So yeah, so those things are, hello. So those are things that are kind of bugging me. To me, it's like, you know, I don't know if this is like theme side. This is probably theme side, but to me, it's really important that themes come out of the gate with like this true visual preview of what's going on, right? Because otherwise, I don't know, we're not setting a good example. Like, I see this a lot in blocks, is that, you know, people, especially the core blocks, because the core blocks save markup, and that makes a lot of sense for core blocks, but I think there's this big gap where like most custom blocks, frankly, probably need to be dynamic blocks and not inserted markup for various reasons. And there's no bridge between like a dynamically rendered block based on attributes in the editor and like the front end output. And it's like a big hurdle for a lot of people. It's something that I'm trying to work on solving like through my actual, like through my job. I shouldn't say my actual job, because this is also my actual job. But like through 10up, just trying to figure out like how can we resolve this like friction of templating, right, between the PHP and the React side of things. I think that's like a really important thing to solve for, because otherwise people are going to default to methods that are like easier for them to manage and to maintain, and those are not going to be like truly visual experiences. And I think that like, if we don't represent those good visual experiences across themes, across custom integrations, across whatever, right, people's conception of the editor is still going to be, oh, they just changed it for no reason, right? Like, it's just changed for change's sake. It's breaking all my stuff for no benefit, you know, all that kind of thing. And so we really have to set, I feel like, a better example of like, this is what it could be, right? This is what visual editing really could be like. This is what it should look like. You know, like, for me, like, using Gutenberg to, I mean, flex time, I guess, but like the last client thing that I launched was whitehouse.gov, right? So that's like a very serious thing. And it was a lot of work. And then like a lot of it is public knowledge. So we did whitehouse.gov from like design comps all the way through launch in 6 weeks. It was a lot of us working like double time for 6 weeks. And yeah, but that editor experience, you know, like, no big deal, right? Obviously, like, I'm biased because I did the bulk of the editor build. I had a lot of help, obviously, but, you know, I did the bulk of the technical parts, and then like basically the entirety of the UX of a block editor. And to me, that's like, I can't show it without express permission, I don't think. But to me, that it really is like, just take a look at whitehouse.gov and just imagine that you click on edit on the homepage, and like literally every single little thing of text is something that you can click in place in the editor and edit, just to start typing. And that's That's all it is. Like, you can barely tell when you've clicked edit and you're in the editor. Like, if it weren't for the little bit of Gutenberg Chrome at the top, that the same here, right? Like, you would not know that you're in the editor. It's a true one-to-one representation of the front end. And that to me is like where things have to go. Yeah, I don't have WP admin access to whitehouse.gov anymore, by the way, because I no longer work on it. I was only there through the launch, and then like I think I was permitted to do some bug fixes afterward. But no, I no longer have WP admin access to whitehouse.gov. So sorry, it would only be local, only be a local show off anyway. But yeah, like I think that's where things have to go, especially for custom development. But you know, distributed themes have to reflect the same thing. Like they have to be like a real one-to-one representation. Otherwise, we're still just selling ourselves short, and we're still just creating something a little bit confusing, and that, you know, the user perception of it is going to be like, oh, you made this new thing that's like more complicated, but it still doesn't help me make my site look the way that I want it to look, right? So yeah, so that's where I think we need to go. Hi. I don't know who you are, but hi, thanks for joining me. So yeah, so here's something that's bugging me, right? It's like this placeholder here, not the right color. These two inputs, right? The button is an input and the text input itself, they're not the same height, right, as on the front end. This is missing the underline. And the hover state, I guess maybe I don't care about the hover state. And then there's this like the block placeholder thing, right? Which we recognize from the editor context, but in this context, it's like holding space in a way that like doesn't happen on the front end. So now I don't know, like, do I need a spacer? Because now when I look at it here, it's like, oh man, I actually do need a spacer. But then here I don't. So I don't actually have that real representation of like, this is what it's gonna look like. So let's say I wanna make this shorter. I keep forgetting I can't right click. So I can duplicate this and then like move it under, right? But then I still have this like placeholder block. It's mad weird. And now like when just now when I was clicking in it, it like kept both highlighted. If I hit backspace, it does disappear. Okay. So it doesn't have to have it. Like it just disappeared it. I don't know. What happens if I hit update design? Yeah, once again, it's saying I made a change on index. I'm pretty sure everything I changed was in the header. It's like, I don't know if it's telling me that I made a change to the header template part that only applies to index, or like if it's just confused about me having changed something. Save, take a look. Do I think web interfaces should override right-click to provide their own context menu? Typically, no. However, in a web app setting, and especially when you have like this sort of interface, like an editor interface, then yeah, I think that I would expect right-click to bring up the context menu for the block instead, right? The menu that comes up like here. I think that's what I would expect to show up if I were to right-click it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, like, what happens if I hit save? Yeah, it tries to save it. I feel like we should like also probably override the save, and not like actually do anything, just like no op it, because like this is bad. It's very easy to like be in the habit of being like command S all the time. Okay, so I got rid of that like little block that was just hanging out. So now it looks closer. Still not perfect because of this. So yeah, and then I don't like that it inserted search with this label thing. So I can change button position, use button with icon. Okay. Toggle search label. So I can turn it off. Change button position, no button, button outside, button inside. So I can put the button inside. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, so select navigation. So it knows I'm inside navigation. So if it knows I'm inside navigation, then shouldn't it be able to tell me that, like when I hit update? Like, shouldn't it be able to be like, okay, you updated your navigation? And now when I clicked that, it like inserted this empty block underneath again, which I cannot truly get rid of. And again, there are too many plus icons. Too much happening here. Okay, I'm gonna hit update design one more time, and then I'm gonna try to not press update all the time, because then this is still like save and surprise territory, right? But I feel like I don't know what that's gonna look like. Okay, so this is a better representation. It's still not perfect, but like this is at least a better representation of what that looks like. Okay, it's cuter this way. Okay, let's go into the rest of this area. Oh my god, there's so much. I can mouse over all kinds of stuff. Yes. Well, with the easy way to preview, the thing is, like, this is supposed to be a preview, right? Like, this is supposed to be a full preview. It's that, like, because the first time I saved it and then jumped over to look at it, and it was, like, super different because there was, like, a holder paragraph here, and, like, the search box looked different. Because that first save gave me a different result over here on the actual front end of my site versus what's in the editor, I feel like if they weren't different, then as a user, I would start feeling like, okay, I trust the editor a little bit better yet. Now, so like, because I trust the editor now to actually show me what it's going to look like, then no, I don't need to continually like save it and go see what it's going to look like, right? And so that's what I mean, is that I feel like if our themes that we launch with this support don't have that true visual preview, then we're not going to be able to sell this effectively. And I feel like it's not that I think that the editor experience itself is bad, so much as I think that like if we don't nail this on launch, then it's not going to be something that's actually better for people, like overall. And that's what I'm worried about here, right? It's like this editor stuff, there's little wonks and whatever, but like every editor has wonks and it's fine, right? But it's things like, how come this is different from the front end, right? Like that seems like that shouldn't be the case. So I feel like if we had this like true visual preview, truly one-to-one, then no, I wouldn't be so worried about like having a preview or whatever. Thank you both for following. Let me know what you all do and why you're watching me stream, I guess. You'd want a button that makes a hover interaction disappear. Yeah, I mean, like that could be something, right? So preview mobile is like this, but it's almost like maybe this isn't preview. Also, like, I don't know if I trust that this is actually what it looks like in mobile. I feel like it seems kind of wacky. Like, how can that be true? So I feel like this is really like editor size or something like that. And then there should be, yeah, like a preview mode that's like you remove all the interactions. Like, I agree. I feel like that would be more effective. So you don't have to like keep switching tabs. Cool, you're a computer science student. I am making WordPress. That's what I'm doing. I'm one of the lead developers for WordPress itself, which is, what was the stat I saw today? It's 40.9% of the internet now. It's a lot of the internet. And so I'm one of a handful of lead developers for WordPress. And I am currently testing and evaluating a full site editing feature, which is up for initial go, no-go, merge consideration in a week. So I'm just being transparent about not just the open source licensing side of things, but the open source process nature of the project, and sharing how I, as a lead developer and a user, like a person who uses computers, feels about this feature. And we have some other WordPress people here in chat, and Anne in particular is helping by watching me and taking notes of all the things I complain about. So, because you know, for better or worse, my opinion as a lead developer does matter. So we got to figure this out. So I feel like this preview nomenclature has always confused me. It's the same in like the current like post content editor, where it's like, yeah, I'm previewing it, but I'm also like editing it in that size, right? So it's more like, you know, what editor view, and then maybe there should be like a preview toggle that takes out all the these hover interactions, so I can just like scroll around and check it out. And yeah, like, and if that removes the need to like open a new tab, and instead I just have this like preview without the Chrome thing going on. The way the customizer does, right? Like, the customizer has that little collapse thing, and then it just like leaves this little icon. So like maybe we could have something like that, or like just collapses all the Chrome and leaves you like one tiny little icon to get back to, you know, editing stuff. Maybe too much to to implement in the next week, but okay. So wow, there's a lot happening. Oh, so this says this is my site title. So what happens when I change this? Oh, it like live changes both. Okay. That's kind of cool. Okay, so this is a separator block. That was really hard to select. Like, it should highlight the whole block or something. So I could remove, like, you can remove anything. And do you know if there's like a locking concept right now? Like, could I be like, no, this has to be locked into place or something like it, or it has to be like at the top of the footer? Blocking is under discussion. Yeah. Oh, there's like one of those placeholder blocks at the bottom again. Yeah, so that's one of the things that is definitely going to be a huge blocker before like custom development starts taking this on. And like, frankly, this probably is not like a good fit for custom development anyway, right? Like, I don't know how much like in the custom development land we really want to like open up the money museum. Cool. So in custom development land, right, there's two differences, or not two differences, there are two major things at play here. What this editor currently manages is it manages like distributed themes. Oh, the Monet Museum. I was like, what? Why would it be the money museum? Yeah, that makes sense because of all the Impressionist art. But yeah, this editing experience is really about publicly distributed themes. And so the publicly distributed themes, and the same goes for the current content editor, is it's about flexibility. It's about, you know, the ability to like change stuff to your liking, or to take something as a starting point and alter it into what you want it to be. But what we see in the custom development side of things is that we don't want that kind of flexibility, right? The custom development side of things is much more about, I'm going to call it guidance. I don't like calling it control, because I think that really, calling it controlling things is really about, I feel like it's like a negative relationship between you and your client, right? Like, there's very much this like condescending way that people have about talking about their clients, and like, oh, they're just like not able to do things I need to control my client is doing. And I feel like that's not really a great framing. I feel like it's a very negative framing for things. So to me, it's much more about like, how do I guide them to get stuff done, right? How do I guide them into only doing the things that really need to get done? How do I guide them into producing good results? That's a framing that I very strongly prefer. And so the framing around guidance then is that, you know, I think that even the issue that's open in the Gutenberg repo is like controlling the block editor or something. But I really want to think about it as like guidance. And so I think there's totally space for full site editing site for a client, right? I don't think that I would want to disable the site editor. I think what it would be is that like I would need more things locked, right? So like maybe the footer layout is locked, but you're allowed to edit one or two of the blocks that are in the footer layout, right? So like maybe you want them to be able to edit the like some disclaimer text or something, right? So like having widgets in here is, you know, widgets and menus. I think again, having that visual editor experience is extremely powerful. It's extremely compelling, and it's what's going to set us apart moving forward as custom developers, right? As consultants, client agencies. That's what will really set us apart, is if we embrace this visual editing paradigm. But yeah, it's not that I expect core to do these things, and I don't really expect themes to necessarily do this, but I think that the API needs to be there where as a custom, like as a client services developer, right? I want to be able to say like, okay, there's this footer area and it has this stuff, but like only certain parts are editable. Some things like are stuck in place, right? And then you can insert stuff after it, or something like that, but you can't insert anything else before it, blah, blah, blah. The iceberg, I haven't looked at the iceberg plugin. Yeah, those are things that are super important. And again, like on the White House, like we disable like almost everything. Some of it's very hacky, but like we disable a ton of stuff. Options on buttons, blocks that are not necessarily being used. Like the actual block inserter has like their custom blocks. There are a ton of them. So it has like the custom blocks, then it has like a handful of core blocks. And so it's, again, it's very much about like guiding them to make good decisions by like removing the things that they don't need to be distracted by, right? So yeah, so I think that's, again, I don't think that this is critical to shipping V1 because the chances of client development like embracing this in V1 is like 0, right? Like absolutely not. I think what's important is for people to get used to where this is going. And so like definitely I think one of the major next steps for embracing this sort of editing experience is providing those APIs for like removing stuff or locking stuff in place or whatever. So I think those are important things. So yeah, so like maybe you would still want this to be a block like defined in that in that whatever the way is for themes to define their blocks. I haven't even looked at the code yet. But maybe in the client paradigm, you may want to say like this block cannot be deleted or have its settings altered, right? Yeah, so this is kind of freaky. Like I just clicked in here and like there's all this space underneath it, and I guess there must be like a spacer block underneath. But I don't know why. Like why would I ever want that? Query patching. So like I can attach like group, query, group, paragraph. So is this attached to this group? Why can't we name groups? Shouldn't we be able to name groups? Oh, so I've selected the whole query. But like, why is this a group? This is a group. I feel like groups should be nameable. Because I don't understand like why are these grouped together? What is this block that's inside the same group as pagination? Yeah, we should be able to name them. I've seen some cool stuff. Oh wow, look how look how bad that lag is. Oh my god. Is that my computer or is it Gutenberg? I think it's my computer because like everything is lagging really bad. I should have checked that before starting streaming today. Maybe if I quit something. I'm gonna quit a couple more apps. I'm gonna, you know what? I'm also gonna just quit Slack because Slack chews memory. It could also be like Firefox being a brat about stuff. Okay, code seems a little blurry. Oh, but this is like mad slow. I think this might be Gutenberg is being slow. What is this block that's inside the same group as pagination? I have no idea. I'm gonna leave that there because I don't know what's going on there. I've started at the bottom. It's to allow for centering or a background. Yeah, so I've seen people using groups and stuff for like background and like visual design, and I think it's super cool. But yeah, like without a name for it, that is theme controllable or user controllable or both, whatever. It's really easy to get lost and be like, what is this group for? Like, why did I make this group? I don't know. Change block type. Okay, it seems like that's not what I want. Okay, I don't know what this icon is for now. Query pagination next. You've never seen it this slow. Well, I mean, I'm in Firefox and I'm streaming. So like my computer may very well just be like unhappy with me right now. I probably have too many tabs open. Maybe in a minute, like we can look at code for a second and I'll let Firefox like restart. Okay, so I can like select, oh, it has like a little icon that's way too small for me to see. Query pagination next numbers. So I could add like another one. Oh, it's kind of wacky. I don't hate it. It's just kind of funny. Okay. Is this really aligned like this? Also, like, I recognize that my site does not actually have these, but it's a little confusing to me that it's like, you have 8 pages, and I'm like, no, I don't. Yeah, I guess like you're never going to be able to have like a true preview and still be able to manipulate this stuff, but it might be nice if it was like, this is not currently showing. So I can move that around. That's kind of cool. Okay, that works. Here's a spacer. Oh, so I can like change everything. Right byline. Whoa. I can change this tiny text. That is really small. Okay, so you can like put a little thing above the author. I do feel like I should not be allowed to transform this. I don't know. So if I like centered it, oh, that's cool. Okay. So I can link this? Hang on. Oh, it's not linked in the front end. Why can't I have a preview? I mean, this is supposed to be a preview, right? Like, this is supposed to be like a live visual preview. And so you shouldn't need to save and preview it. Unless you're talking about the preview of this. So the problem here is that like, I want to be able to set this up, like set up what the pagination is going to look like. But because like I'm on a fresh local site, I only have one post. So like there's no actual pagination. This is the live site. So there's no actual pagination. So like setting these settings is fine, but in the actual preview, like on the real site, it wouldn't show. So I think that's another argument for having like a preview view that is not like a live save and develop. It's it's that it's just like toggling off all the stuff that isn't relevant in the editor, but without having to like jump to a different view. Part of the discussion around placeholders too. Yeah, I think that what Timothy said about like Jonathan, I don't know, whatever somebody said about like having a preview mode that just removes the like hover interactions. I think actually like the more I'm looking at this, the more compelling that is, because you could hide this, right? Because it's not relevant to the actual like what is output on the site. And yes, the point of what I'm developing is that this is WordPress itself. This is a feature that we're hoping to launch in WordPress in July. So that's what I'm working on. Okay, so I can like link this, but does that mean that like every author's thing is linked that way? Wait a second. Hang on. Okay, when I click in here into the author thing, there's no link. But when I click here, I can link this. And then when I click back, it doesn't lose these options. I have actually seen this before, and I know what the problem is. It's that this must be a plain text component. And the plain text component has this problem where like if you change into another text component, it doesn't clear the toolbar. I haven't reported this, but that's an actual bug that I've seen. So I can link this tiny text. This one has no tags. Okay. So if I wanted tags to show first, I could like move it up. Oh, cool. Okay, that's chill. And then date. Oh, that looks weird. This looks unstyled. It's like missing the padding and the... Yeah, it's missing the padding. And it's not even on the two sides. That looks really weird. Okay. I don't understand, like, is this editing the date for this post? Am I editing the date for the post, or am I editing like the date format? I'm definitely not editing the format, so I must be editing the date of the post. But I cannot edit the categories. Okay. Oh, so I could like randomly put an audio player in here. That's like too much. I should not be able to do that. It's like too many options. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that. Okay, so this is like... Each author has their own jingle, right? So if I put it in there, is it for like every post or is it only for this one? No, I don't know. Okay, so I can like edit the post. There's a spacer. But the spacer's not in the post itself. It's like outside of the post. Yeah, because I cannot move it up. Okay. So I'm in the query loop. I'm actually not convinced that I should be able to edit stuff within the query loop, by the way. I feel like that doesn't seem quite right to me. Okay, so now I'm in this area, and so this traditionally is what we would think of as like widgets, right? Okay. So I could be like... hang on, I'm gonna see what kind of YouTube links I have. Okay, we're gonna put in a YouTube link. Why won't it close this stupid menu? Oh, I don't know. We'll find out in just a second. Okay, so I just pasted in an embed URL. And it totally does not show, and now I have like competing toolbars. Thanks for following. I saw you said hi. Sorry, I didn't respond. Okay, so I have like, I think these are overlapping toolbars because it says I should be able to add a caption. But also, like, this block is not showing a video. Let's try again. I pasted a YouTube URL. Nothing happened that I can see, but I know it's in there. Isn't it? Yeah. It's like hiding in here. What's going on? Is there a video here? Now there's a caption, but like... Make it italic, but like where's the freaking video? I don't know. Alright, let's find out. I'm gonna update the design now. This is gonna tell me, okay, I edited... Hello. It says I edited my Hello World post so I can select. Yeah, I feel like this should definitely just say highlighted. Yeah, I don't know if it's like specific to this footer area or like what it's specific to. So like, let's say that I, if I paste it in here. Okay, so I had the same problem. Yeah. There's a YouTube video here. Oh shoot, that's not what I wanted. So I made a change. Okay, so here's what just happened. I made a change, and then because this panel was already open, I was like, oh, I want to like update like the stuff that's in there. And so I hit save just sort of out of habit. So we totally missed on what I edited. Here, we'll make some other changes. Oh, so this is like outside of the italics. That's fine. So update design. So it says I've updated the Hello World post. Again, I definitely think that instead of select, it should say highlight. Okay, so this entire thing is a footer. And then it says I've edited the index template. But I don't know what I edited. I guess I edited the thing that says this tiny text. But like, is that for every post? I have no idea. And I definitely like edited this date and like have no concept of whether it's attached to the post or not. Anyway, save. So if I refresh this, so the embed does work here. It does not work here. I'm going to tell you my guess, which is that, which is the problem that we have in widgets. And that is that embed cache is default to being on a post, being in post meta. In the absence of that, they can now be saved somewhere else, like options or like a hidden custom post type or something. I don't even remember. But it's not doing it. So it's like unable to grab the cache and it's doing something wrong. And because they're the same one, it's clearly not just trying to get it from this. But okay. So again, like this, not a visual one-to-one here. There's like space here that I like. Whereas here, there's not this space. And so I'm back to a situation of like, hey, this stuff doesn't line up. And I don't understand why, right? So like, I don't understand why they're not lining up. And also that makes me distrust this preview. And like no tags here should probably be like, you know, a placeholder type color because they're not going to show on the front. And once again, having a preview toggle here that's like a true interactionless preview would help by hiding those kinds of pieces. Okay, so this just shows here, even though I don't have pagination. That's kind of funny. It's fine. Yeah, this is all out of whack because I'm assuming there's like CSS to put a thing in the correct size to hold the video, but then there's no actual video. Okay, so it's kind of confusing. I feel like I'm definitely pushing this to its limits, right? Like, I don't think people are out here trying to make these changes. They're probably just going to ignore most of these capabilities for the most part. And they'll be like, oh no, like I messed up my site, so I'll just like undo it or something. But I think like for me to ship a compelling product that I feel comfortable recommending, I think we really need to work on this like one-to-one preview thing. I think that so far is the thing that I'm really concerned about. Okay, so we have this. So now I need to know, does this tiny text stick everywhere? Is this always attached to the author name? I want to know. So now let's make a new post. I'm not centered in my face cam like it'll help me edit this. Filters. Okay, maybe this will center my video a little better. Oh, it would also help if I like put it in the right place. Okay, so now I'm back in the editor. I don't have full screen on. Okay, so the editor actually defaults to this full screen mode, which matches this. You see, There's like essentially the same Chrome. There's like a little bit different here. Oh, I don't even know what this is. Oh my God. Okay, we'll get into that in a minute. I wouldn't even noticed if it wasn't like this moved and I was like, what is going on? Okay, so this is the editor. Very similar, right? You can see, as it should be, because this should unify the interfaces. It is unifying the interfaces. I have this huge beef, which I totally have not actually opened an issue or commented on any issues about. But I don't like that when you click on the W in full screen mode, it takes you back to the list of posts. Because it's not necessarily where I came from. And it's like super not what I'm expecting. What I would expect is when you click on this W for it to pop you out of full screen mode and show everything. That's what I would expect clicking the W to do. I assume that that's been user tested and like I'm wrong about what people expect, but like it screws me up all the time. Yeah. So then I end up turning off full screen mode because like I happen to end up needing to like open a bunch of stuff in new tabs or whatever, but I don't want to because this is really nice. The full screen mode is really nice. I want there to be one click access to go back to the menu and I want that to be the W. Anyway, here's a second post from my cool site. Hello there. I am also really cool, just like my site. I write the dumbest content for my test sites. So Alice in Wonderland. Isn't there like some lorem ipsum thing where like I can just like copy? I don't know. Anyway, let's just copy a few paragraphs of Alice in Wonderland. See, isn't that cool? You just copy paste and it like keeps the like italics and stuff. All right, let's publish this. Okay, so now I guess I can go to view post. So when I view the post, it looks like this. There's no tiny text here. Okay, so what happens if I go to home? Okay, so this tiny text only applies to that query loop. I don't know if that's what I expect. Like, I think in my head, this in the single post view is actually the same as it is here. I think it's very powerful that you can set those differently, but I'm also confused by it. And yeah, like the editing the date thing was very confusing too. So yeah, honestly, personally, I would say that for like these types of query blocks where it's like showing you multiple posts, I don't think that you should be able to change the post content in it. I think that's like, at least not right now. I feel like that's overly confusing. And for like an initial launch, it'd be more of a theme author tool. Yeah, I think that like if we launch it that way, it's backing ourselves into a corner where like we can't take it back out later without people being like, what the hell, why'd you take it? And I don't think that I just don't think it's a critical interaction for this context right now. And I just find it super confusing. Like changing the date here. Like this is changing the date, but this is changing it like globally, but only on index, only for this particular query loop. So like that's confusing to me. Like I feel like if I'm editing it in here, it should only be the stuff that's like the query loop itself that's being edited. The query block. Maybe block variations like post list block. Yeah, I mean like that's really important. Actually, like the query block is something that like we replicate in like every custom development site. It's eternal. Like they always need these like query blocks. We call them like post curation blocks or whatever, or like content card lists, stuff like that. Usually it's tied to like what the visual representation is, because that's how like normal people think about their websites. But yeah, I don't know. That's really confusing. That's too much context switching, I feel like, for me. I'm gonna refresh this because I made a new post. Yes, it's a series of projects. So I like the query block itself. I just don't think that editing individual posts within it is necessary. If anything, I think it's kind of bad. Okay. It took so freaking long that it was like no terms found. And I saw some text that was like super confusing. So that took way too long to load everything in. I don't know why. Timothy, is this like, are they requesting stuff like individually in the REST API? That seems bad. Yeah, I just don't feel like I should be able to edit this stuff in this context right now. It just doesn't seem necessary. So if I'm like, no, I don't like this tiny text, so I can get rid of it, and it gets rid of it in both places. That seems good. Yeah, and the other thing is like, also it feels incomplete because you can't like click here and add tags, for instance. So then because you can only edit some of the post content and not all of it, like, oh, I think Firefox is like pitching a fit. Look at this. Oh no, this is not Firefox. Look, Gutenberg did it bad because there's still UI here. I don't know what's happening. I just undid it and everything fell back in. Okay, I don't know what I did. So yeah, like when I click here, like I think for people, for humans, it's jumping around and I don't know why I didn't do that. For humans, like I don't look at this. Oh, it lost this thing. This changed. Gray block of death. So that does happen to people. Okay. So I just changed that and then I clicked in here. Okay, it seems fine again. But yeah, like not being able to change tags, but being able to change post content, like I think again, for us and you know, people watching my stream, like kind of by definition are like a self-selected group, right? And so I know what the difference is between post content and the title and like the date and stuff. But it just seems like that's what makes it feel really confusing, is that like you can't edit all the things that like a more normal user is going to be like, but this is all related, right? Like tags are part of my content the same way the date is part of my content. And so to like be able to change one but then not the other is a little like, for why, right? Yeah, and you can't edit in here either, so which makes sense. Post date. Oh look, there's format settings in here. And you can link it to the post. Okay. Author settings. Show avatar, show bio. Oh, see? These are here. How come author can't link to the author page? So like here, when I'm in the date, like I can link it to post, but how come like the author I can't be like link it? Oh, and then like, I can change the author? No. Again, I don't think that's correct. I don't think that we should be mixing that, because now I don't know, like this showing avatar and show bio, that seems pretty obviously like it's gonna apply to here, to like all of them. But then when you make it so that I can change the author, it's a little more like, what the hell, am I changing it for like one instance or all of them? I don't understand. So yeah, that's super confusing. I don't think that we should be able to do that. I mean, it's introducing like way too much complexity, and like I'm confused. And I would also like to know why doesn't this have link settings so that I can link to the author page, right? Like, doesn't that seem like a thing people do? Do I need to have multiple authors? No, like I could have a single author blog and like have an author page. I don't know. What happens if I hit update design? It just says I updated the index and I don't know what that means. Yeah, should it say like index and then like I change something inside the query block at least? Oh, so when I hit save, then this shows. Okay. I don't know how I feel about that. It's a little weird. Okay. Well, anyway. I'm very good at finding problems. Oh, look at this. This now says toggle navigation. What? What is this? What is this? Oh shit, that's totally not what I meant to do. Okay, so that was a link, apparently. It wasn't just continuing to go up the stack and something. What is that? That's so confusing, because I don't know what any of this is. That super confused me. So when I clicked theme, and then there's this like dashboard link, I feel like that should very clearly warn me that I'm gonna navigate away from this, because like before it's the same thing. Like, how do I know? Okay, so this, I can actually navigate around a little bit. Is that what this is? Oh yeah. So now I can like go edit a page template. I can edit single. Post hierarchical terms block, post not found. No post found for this block. So you need a placeholder for these too, huh? You need the same kind of placeholder, but for tags. All of these need placeholders, actually. Yeah, same thing here. And comments probably needs like a proper placeholder. I assume those are being worked on. Okay, so here I can navigate around to different templates. Then there's like general templates. What does that mean? Page home. What makes it a general template and why is it called page home? Like if I make a static home page, when I click on it, there's like no indicator that I need to wait. Okay. Fine. Yeah, this is not very responsive. I don't know if it's just like my computer. What's going on? So I can edit the 404, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, so what if I was like, bad. Update design, so I'm updating the 404 template. Okay. I have a thing. Yeah. So what if I go to like hello? Are you kidding me? I can't make it 404? What is the deal here? Yeah, if I go in from a single page, it'll be filled in. That makes sense, but like, I don't know, when you have multiple entry points, and how come I can't make it 404? Is there something wrong? Oh, I don't have pretty permalinks on. Oh no, not edit site. I want to go to my dashboard. Settings, permalinks. Month and name. Save changes. Okay. Okay, there we go. Maybe now it'll be like. Okay, here. Okay, that's cool. I can like edit my 404. Yeah, I'm not an adult. Okay, so I can clear customizations, browse all templates, and that opens this thing. That's kind of cool. So here's something that's on my mind. It feels like index, like because we know what the homepage setting is, right? The like show on front setting. it feels like index, we should be able to say this is also used as your homepage, or this is used, right? It's like this is required and it's a default template, but like we should also be able to say like this is what's being used for your homepage, or this is what's being used for your blog page, right? Because there is also like the front page template and the home template, right? And so because those are special parts, those are special template names, I feel like we should be able to describe those a little more clearly, and based on some conditionals be like, this is what's being used for your homepage. I feel like we could be more descriptive about that. You know, I don't think this is going to be setting what shows on homepage. Well, I don't know if it's necessarily like setting what shows on the homepage. I don't know if it's about changing the setting. I think it's about just making the description clearer, that like index is currently what's being used for the homepage, right? So like this will also show on your homepage or whatever. It's like a conditional string that shows. These previews are not true previews. I know that these are generated and they're extremely clever, but again, if they don't show a real visual preview, they're worse than not having them. So yeah, exactly. Describe the template hierarchy because it's already very confusing, right? And then like when I go to general templates and it's like page home, like I think that means if I choose it in the template drop down, right? But like, don't page templates come with descriptions? Maybe it's just that the theme doesn't have it and like the full site editor picks it up. But you know what? We can look. Oh boy. Theme. We're gonna have to do some gross stuff to get into this directory. Let me collapse a bunch of stuff. Okay, WP content themes. You can see what I've been working inside. Theme experiments. 2021 blocks. Includes block template parts. Okay, so page home. Okay. Okay, fine, whatever. Yeah, it kind of feels like this should accept a file header like the way theme files traditionally have, and it should accept some kind of file header that contains like a, plain English name, like a prose name for the template name, and then a template description. Right? That feels like we need that. Otherwise, this like general templates thing is like, what the hell is this? I don't understand. Alright, so theme. So we have templates and template parts. So we have headers and footers. It's not clear to me like why there would be multiple. So it feels like if there's only one, then it should just not show the whole thing, and we should only just have the one. We can get into content. Posts. All posts. What does that mean? That I'm going to go to the home page? Yeah, it really needs like a loading indicator, because like I just clicked on it and was like, I kind of wonder if there should be something that shows you what the actual URL of the thing is that you're previewing, if you're on something that has like an actual individual URL. It's not a critical problem. Okay, so you can navigate to like individual things, and you can navigate to a category. Did I? Categories, uncategorized. Okay, it did. It says I'm on index. Let me see. post. Nothing in here says that I am. Maybe it doesn't update them, but. How about if I change the category on one of those posts? I have to do a full edit. Ugh. Okay, settings, post. You know what I also hate is that I have to skip past this visually to get to the view post link. It drives me bonkers. Drives me bonkers. I hate it. And this spacing is like super whack too. There's like more space under view post, even though it's connected to this, than there is to what's above it. Makes no sense to me. Okay, we're gonna call this category literature. Update. Okay, so what happens if I refresh the site editor? Am I still in that category view? It says loading here. It's just like not very obvious to me. Why is it still loading? Maybe OBS messes with my local too. Okay. Okay, so it has these and it's still loading these in. It kind of gets rid of the loading message too early. See, it still says like term items not found, but I assume that's gonna pop into place at some indeterminate moment. Yeah. Okay. So if I go theme, also like, oh my god, computer, really? My computer's having a full-on meltdown. Or is it? No, it wasn't. Okay, so if I go back to, it just loads the index template. Okay, so if I go back up to theme, theme doesn't seem like the right title, like the go back. Theme doesn't seem right because it's actually theme and content. Like maybe it should say theme and content. Okay, so if I click on literature, no, it doesn't do anything. Okay, so that should probably be removed or, yeah, strange. Okay. All right, so that's full site editing. I think this is pretty cool. So now I could like clear customizations. Okay, that took a moment. Now it says template reverted, but I can undo that. Okay. I clear customizations. Wait. But what did I do? That didn't do anything. It didn't change anything. I'm like terrified. Restore template to theme default. Okay, I'm gonna click on this index again. So if I clear customizations, it says my template's been reverted, but you know what? All this stuff is still here, and these were all my customizations. Like, I changed this stuff. What did it revert? Does it mean like... Does this mean I can put pagination like all the way the fuck up here? Sorry. I was trying not to cuss. Okay. So that's pretty new. This is new stuff. It makes it look like I can drag this. Even though... Oh my god. What just happened? I don't know. Undo. I have no idea where I just dropped that. Why did it do that to me? Oh, I see. So it lost that funny text that I had put under here. Because remember, I had like typed weird text under here? But it didn't like reset the footer. So maybe it's only changing stuff that's like specific to the index template, but that's super weird. Because like, what if I undo? Oh yeah, there it is. So here's that funny block that I have. So if I clear customizations, it's going to remove this, because this is something that's in a query block that's specific to the index. So from a technical perspective, I understand that. I think from a user perspective, if I see clear customizations, I'm also thinking this, right? Because like, I'm thinking it's just everything that's on the screen. I'm just going to clear the customizations. So it should probably be clearer that this is like only restoring the specific part of the template, like the things that are not inside the header and the footer or something. I don't know how you can be clear about that. And again, that may be something that like you don't want for launch, just because it's like, yeah, address this whole widgets thing is the footer. Yeah, all the widgets are in the footer. So you have footer here, you have header here. So that when I say like revert my changes, it reverts the changes to the query loop and to like things that I put inside of it. And I assume if I were to put something like outside of the footer template part, then it would like delete that too. Okay, but so you say that. I understand, conceptually I understand it. I'm saying that like from a user perspective, if I'm in here and I happen to click on this thing, which I'm probably not going to anyway, but let's say that I do, and I see this thing that says clear customizations. In my head, this is like for the entire screen, like everything that I see on the screen, right? Like I am not clear on what is this template part and what is like something that's global across template parts. Like it's not super clear to me. And now, so right now I have the header selected, but if I were to clear customizations, again, it only applies to the template, which is like just that one little extra block that I added. Yeah. I think that like editing one part versus the whole site, like that part, I don't find it like necessarily super confusing. Although it does kind of feel like some things within a query block are like, you know, it feels a little weird that like maybe I would need to change this to reflect the same thing across both like a search template and my index, for instance, right? Like those maybe could be discrete template parts that have different things going on, but I want, you know, this one little byline thing, and so I'd have to edit both of them. Maybe it's a little weird, but I don't think it's a big deal. But yeah, but I think that just like in this context, the like clear customizations just is not super clear, like what exactly is going to clear. And there doesn't seem to be like, okay, I'm in the header, so now I can't be like clear customizations to the header, even though like it knows that I've selected it. So I just think that like for ship V1, I would not have this in here. This just seems like unnecessary for a V1 ship. let's see, localhost p. Let's see. I assume that it's going to show here. Yeah, template parts. So I can like trash it and then not have those changes anymore. I don't know if like the intention is to keep this for shipping. I think that using the post list table for this is a bad idea. I understand it, but like, I don't know, like it's exposing too much. Yeah. I can understand what's going to happen because I'm technical. I think if I were not technical, I would have no freaking clue what would happen if I trashed one of these. I'd be like, oh my freaking God, I'm about to delete the entire header off of my site and it's just going to be gone. And so that's kind of terrifying. I think that it's not clear, like by just using the default post list table, it's a little like, what? I don't know, like if this shows everything that you've ever done between like different themes and like, are these changes gonna stick? No, because they're associated with the theme, right? Yeah, so yeah, as somebody who's not technical necessarily, yeah, like I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel like I'm about to delete like a very critical part of my site just by accident. Especially like if I were on my phone or something, like oh no, I tapped trash, like that sounds terrifying. So yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if like we even really need to expose this initially, like in core. I think it makes sense like if you have Gutenberg running or something, or maybe there's like some other like slightly hidden view. But there are some things that like we could do here that's a little better, right? Like instead of it saying trash, it'd be like clear customizations to this part or something. You can filter all that text. Quick edit makes no freaking sense here. The date makes no sense. So like you could take out quick edit. What happens if I hit edit? Okay, I get it. Oh look, see? It's here. Now my video's here because now it has a post context to get the meta out of. No, it's 100% because of post meta, because of embed caching. It has to be. There's no other reason why I would do something like that. See, there's a lot going on in here where it's like, why would I write an excerpt? Like, is the excerpt the block description? No, I don't know what the oh, sorry, I totally just hit my mic. I don't know what the excerpt is for. Like they're just like little things in here. So the fact that like you can access this, but there are lots of things about it that don't make sense. Like why should I be able to quick edit it? Why should I be able to edit it in this context? It makes sense again from a technical perspective, but I think like this is not a good thing to expose and then say trash. So this is all stuff that should probably be hidden away unless you have, frankly, I would go for like a constant or something. Or maybe a setting in Gutenberg, right? So like if you were to go to like experiments or something, like you have to turn on the view. Although it might be nice to do without the entire plugin, but whatever. Okay, so we have template parts and then templates. Here it shows the description. So why does template parts have a description? I don't understand. I kind of feel like you could keep these views kind of, but the more correct thing would be to have both of them like on one screen, and then the menu item is like template customizations or something. Because yeah, I don't know. The list table view is like not quite right. All right, back to here. So there's this global styles item that I saw, and I don't know what this is. By block type. Oh, wow. Okay, let's start with root. So I could change like my font family. Hi, thank you for following. This is what I do. I just, I stream myself doing WordPress stuff. That's my job. Okay, so like, I have global styles. So let's make this as obnoxious as I am. Okay. Wait, I'm confused. These don't show me anything. I think they're supposed to show me previews. I assume so. But no, Wix headphones. They are not with me. They are at my aunt's house in the US. I'm not in the US. If Wix had shipped those here, one of us would have gotten hit with like a $200 import duties bill. So I don't have people ship stuff here if I don't know what it is. And I didn't know what it was. They were just like, hey, give us your shipping address. And I was like, okay, I mean, you want to spend your marketing dollars on me, by all means, because it's just a shipping address. It's not my actual address. So, I don't know. Apparently that's what it is. I have a picture of it having arrived, but I don't have them in hand. Maybe next month. Okay, I'm very confused by this because... Oh my god. What just happened? I'm so confused. This just changed when I like touched it. But why? Why is it doing this? How do I make it stop? Wait, I just want one of these. Okay. I'm super confused about this control. This does not update to match if I choose a preset. So I chose a preset and the gradient control didn't update. And now when I mouse over it, it's like, hey, just continuously moving. So what if I hear, yeah, sure, that sounds great. Keep the stupid control point. Why does it keep moving? Okay, keep the control point. No, why? Okay, I removed it, but it's still doing it. Okay, gradient color control seems to have some sort of serious bug going on. I'm going back to solid, even though I really want a gradient. Okay. What if I made it like super obnoxious? But I don't want to. I want it to be a gradient. Yeah, it's sliding without me clicking. Okay, so I've chosen a preset. When I choose a preset gradient, I would expect the gradient control underneath it to update. Now when I mouse over this gradient control, oh, now it's fine. Now it's showing me that I can add a control point. However, again, I would expect this to update to the gradient, the preset. So now if I stay in here and I click over here, this color is not what's showing there at all. I want those colors. You see, and now the colors have changed and I don't understand why. And yeah, the presets, I just have like the transparent pink background. I don't understand. Clearly something in my previewer is like broken. Okay, so now this is working more or less correctly. But like, again, it had shown me colors that I really liked. But then when I actually clicked on the control, it like took them away from me. And just now, like when I clicked on it, it was like stuck. It had like removed one, I think it had removed one end of the control points, and then was like super confused about what to do. Okay, yeah, so this is kind of cool. I don't know. Let's make this a little more my style. It's a deeper purple. Okay, so we have this gradient. My link color, I want it to be like, let's make it like teal. Oh, that's like impossible to read. Okay. JK, I'm gonna make it super purple. Okay. I don't know, I'm just making my site ugly now. And then it has a color palette. Okay, so I can like set a color palette for my site. Slug? Why should I be able to edit slug? That seems unnecessary. Okay, so I can remove these. But I don't understand what the color palette is for. It's just like for me to be able to edit this. So that's where like, it would probably make sense for me like to set like all my brand colors or something, right? And then only allow people to select from like my brand colors. But like, I don't know if like capabilities would be able to manage that in core, right? So like maybe I as a site administrator should be able to set the color palette, but then I want like site editors, maybe not editors like in the WordPress concept, but like a like site maintainer or something to be able to like select from those, but not actually edit the color palette. I don't know. Maybe that's not a real example, but yeah, you can do that with your theme, but like, how come I can edit this? Like, what's the point of me editing these things and removing them? Like if I remove dark gray, it removes the option. I understand that, but like, what is the purpose of this? And it feels like this should probably be like collapsed or something. Okay, so anyway, my children are home now, so if you hear lots of screaming and talking, that's good. Okay, so by block type, so now I can be like, okay, my H1, I want my font size. I want to lock colors. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, of course I'm doing this. So I think it's a nice chance for lots of people to check out the full site editor too without having to like, dedicate time to getting it set up. Yeah, so I think it's maybe that I want to lock colors. Maybe that from like a custom dev perspective, I might want to be able to like have certain types of users able to define them, but nobody else, right? So like maybe a branding person would be allowed to like edit the actual color itself. Oh, okay. Right, like they could change the actual color value itself or something, but then nobody else could. They could just pick from them or something. I don't know. I'm probably thinking too hard, but I can see that happening, right? Okay, so I've set like dumb colors here. So now block type, if I want to be like, I don't have a lot of block types in here. I guess I just have paragraphs. But if I want paragraphs to be, like, what if I wanted my paragraphs to be smaller? Extra small. So I can make all my text like super small. And then, oh yeah, you're right. It totally didn't propagate here. Cause like in global styles, in root, it propagated. Like I removed dark gray and it's not here anymore. Ah, that's totally not what I wanted to do. Whatever, it's fine. We'll go back. But then in here, like it has it again. Hang on. Okay, so here, anyway, that was a good idea. So if I remove dark gray, it disappears. But by block type, yeah, I would expect it to remove it here. Oh, here, site title. What if I want my site title to be like something else? Yeah. Then we could make it like gigantic. Oh no, too big. Extra large. Yeah, so like what if I wanted, I mean like my ability to make it ugly, I guess. There we go, that's better. Okay, so my background color, let's go back to this like gradient idea. Okay, that's fine. Link color, that is not visible at all. I don't see why I should be allowed to set that. Okay. Then I have this like purple color. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay. Down there it's like grayed out. So that's the actual color that I want. Is that like... So like if I hit update design, what does this mean? Global styles 5. What does that mean? And I didn't just update global styles. I totally updated block styles. I updated my site title block. I updated the paragraph font size, right? Didn't I? Oh wait, maybe I lost that. That's reported. Okay, so this font size, I wanted it to be like extra small, right? It says this is reported. Okay, I'll leave that open in the background. Yeah, so if I hit update, it's like global styles 5. I don't know what that means. Also, I totally, here there's, yeah, so this whole thing is global styles, but there's root and there's by block type, and I have definitely edited multiple things between them. So anyway, we'll just save it for now. I'm trusting the preview. So let's go see. Is my trust in the preview appropriate? It was not. Look at this. This gradient, wildly different. Yeah. Thanks for joining me. Okay, here you go. And here's another bug for you. The gradient is only, I think it's whatever the iframe is that's boxing in the editor. The gradient, yeah, okay. The gradient's only applying to the height of the, whatever this box is. Oh, that's pretty wacky too. This is like, it applies it to both. So like I wouldn't be able to change this. This doesn't matter. This is just a hierarchy because I've applied that global style. And so here I thought that that global style was like only applying it to here, but I had totally forgotten that this was also in my footer, and this looks ugly. This looks like butt in my footer. But you know what I really want to do is I'm going to remove it because I don't have any reason to have it there. That correctly told me this was just updating my footer. Okay. So that's pretty wacky, but I kind of like it. I kind of like this color scheme anyway. Cool. So yeah, I don't really know what else to look at. Does anybody have anything that I should like be looking at? Maybe, oh, what I should do is I should try another theme. That's what I'll do. We'll try one more theme and then I'm gonna like go hang out with my kids because they're very cute. Making a template from scratch. I'm not making a template today. Maybe I'll do that on hang on, let me look at my calendar. Client stuff tomorrow. There's dev chat. I can do it Thursday. It's the day after tomorrow, right around the same time. We can try making a template. Follow along with the tutorial because I've literally never done this, so I have no idea. But yeah, we can do that on Thursday. I will write it down in my planner. Full site editing template. Stream. Yeah, we can plot that for Thursday. All right, let's take a look at this photo blocks theme. What happens with live preview now? Hmm. Is this known? I went to live preview another block theme and it said my template part has been deleted or is unavailable, and I don't know why. Is that what's gonna happen when I try to activate it? That seems really bad. Now I'm scared. What if I live preview this one? That was photo blocks. Now I'm on the Gutenberg starter theme blocks, and it's the same thing. So it has like, it shows some content, but yeah, it shows me this template part has been deleted or is unavailable for header and footer. I'm gonna assume it's because it's associated with the theme, and then whatever the customizer is doing to like inject or change, like fake change the theme, they don't play well together. That's a blocker, by the way. You gotta fix that like in a week. Live previewing before you set it live is super important. We can't. I don't think I'm okay with that. All right. Well, apparently live previewing won't work, so this is gonna be a save and surprise situation. I'm just gonna hit activate. This is okay with me because it's a local site with like nothing in it. And this site is going to look like butt because there's nothing. Oh no. Okay, so we still have this problem. Template parts with deleters, unavailable header and footer. Template parts. So let me look in the editor here. Photo blocks. It does have header. Okay, I don't understand that. So this is what I get. So it's not just a live preview. I thought it was just a live preview. So I thought for sure that this would not happen upon switching themes. But this is what's really happening on switching a theme. So I'm gonna call it a big blocker. That's a big no if it's like this. And I don't know how to fix that, right? So like, even as a technical user, now it's like, what happens? Like, do I delete these? Like, what do I do? I can, like, if I move this to the trash, it'll be in the trash. That seems okay, that like I understand it's in the trash, but look. Yeah, I can edit the parts, but look, they're associated with a theme, right? It's like this template part footer says the theme is for the TT1 blocks theme. If I edit the footer? Oh, like edit the site? I don't know. Can find out. Edit site. Oh my lord. Hi. Thank you for following me. Okay, so the editor is okay. But there's nothing in the header. It just says template part. Shouldn't this be the header? And this should be the footer, right? So like it's picking up the stuff. Okay. So here in index, it's picking up all the stuff that's in the middle, this group that has like the query stuff and the featured image thing. Huh. Okay. That's interesting. But it's not picking up the stuff that should be like here in footer and header, even though header very clearly has stuff. And footer very clearly has stuff, but for some reason, this is not picking that up, and I don't understand why. Now this is called header trashed, so like, I'm gonna restore this because like, I don't think this is the problem. So here's another thing. In the post list table view, like, because they're supposed to be tied to themes, I guess I don't know now. It feels like you should only be showing the ones that are like relevant to the active theme, and then you can shunt all the other stuff somewhere else. So there just needs to be like a totally rethought view for templates and template parts. Okay, I don't really know where to go with this because like I don't understand why the header and the footer are missing. I'm gonna refresh this again. Yeah. The home page change. No, it did not change. I tried it. I deleted one and it still gave me the template part has been deleted or is unavailable. Yeah, so that it says it I have it by slug, but that's why I just tried trashing it. Oh no, this is a draft. So restoring it made it a draft. That's fucking annoying. But now the slug is header trashed. I mean, I'll delete it, whatever. It's all just temporary stuff. I don't care. No, I still have the same problem. I don't know. I'm confused by this. I just deleted the header completely, the one that was in the old theme. Let's see if it loads in the site editor context. No, it's still missing. Is this theme broken? Maybe this theme is broken, but it says like photo blocks updated 2 months ago. So maybe that one's broken. TT1 blocks. Everything else is like super old. So maybe it's like broken. If I switch back to the other theme, yeah, I'll do that in a second. Themes located in subdirectory do not locate template parts. Oh. Maybe. Huh, okay, so maybe that's what it is. It's because it's all inside this like subdirectory. I would say that that's fine, but it's not. And yeah, there are two things that I think are pretty bad about that. One is that the actual like repo itself asks you to do this, and like unless you split each of these out into its own repo, there's really no other way of managing it, because it's Git and not Subversion. Because Subversion you could just clone a subdirectory. And the other thing is that I know that people are moving on to VIP Go, but VIP, I know, like .com VIP, at least in its former iteration, sorted themes into subdirectories. So like it would be a problem for you, possibly for some of our clients, I guess. So yeah, that seems bad. So that needs to either needs to be fixed or like, well, it definitely needs to be fixed. Yeah, it needs to be fixed. Because yeah, that's like a super bad experience. So I don't know. I guess we're gonna go back to the other theme because this is not working, and I'm not gonna sit around here messing around with that. So if I live preview this, okay, all my header customizations are gone, which is fine because I trashed that. And then my footer stuff is still there. Okay, that's pretty chill. I think that works for me. So But here's a weird thing. So if I go to like live preview, what happens if I set a menu? Right? So like I can create a menu, but it doesn't go anywhere because there are no menu spots. So that's a little wacky. Is that like there's still some stuff in the customizer? What are we doing with additional CSS? Like, okay, I'm just gonna navigate away from this. So the live preview now has maybe too much stuff left in it. Like, are we still allowing people to do custom CSS? It can use a created menu. Okay, so I still have the customize link. That is pretty wacky, by the way. Are people like not supposed to be able to customize anymore? Site editor. You're surprised I still have that link? Like, this is a raw trunk install. There's nothing interesting about my install. So can this use a nav menu? Okay, maybe I need to make a nav menu. Yeah, it totally still has a customized link on the theme card overlay. Okay, this apparently is the only place I can make one. But... nav menu. Oh, I'll give it a better name so I can actually understand what this is. Add sample page to it. I'm gonna publish this. Okay, but it doesn't actually go anywhere. So then, if I go to site editor, what happens to additional CSS though? Oh yes, there's an experiment. I thought I turned that on. Let's go see. So if I go in here, okay, so here, yeah, now I can choose an existing menu. Okay, got it. Experiments. Yeah, my experiments are on. Oh, it's because it's under here. Navigation, beta. Okay. So now I could do, but I can't add search. Was that because that's only like in the editor thing? I'm confused. Sorry. I understand from a developer's perspective what an nav menu is because of the way they're stored and all this. However, in this context, okay, let's say I choose top nav, but I'm still able to like, see, and now I can do like a page list, which would be like a list of all the pages, post link, custom link, search, and a spacer. What if I don't want that? Actually, I was wrong. Right. So I edited the header, which is correct. Okay, so now we have this back again, the spacer and everything. But yeah, like, so add submenu, okay. But like, how do I know, like, Okay, so let's say I do this. Still spacer here. So I can add blocks in between. That makes sense. Then I can change the link. I mean, fine. But like, let's say I want to add a submenu. Okay. Oh, so that actually is what it looks like. Okay. And it just looks kind of wacky because there's like ad block. Oh, there are these other types of links, and I just don't know that because I thought that this menu was showing me everything that I could add. Because I cannot scroll in it. Okay. I don't know. But yeah, okay, so again here, this is not a one-to-one preview. Like, suddenly this is broken into a line. Does the spacer work in a submenu? I don't know. Let's find out. Plus, spacer. Mad tall. No, it's horizontal. I don't know. That seems weird. Let's add a category link. There's a spacer though. Update design. And again, this is where, again, I think having a swap into a preview context would really help, because then I could actually see this without like all the extra stuff in the placeholder at the bottom. Because that's what I'm saving and refreshing over here for, is I just want to see what it looks like without the extra spacer. And yeah, so you have a spacer, but I think, I don't know, let's add another item. You know, because like I want to see what my menu looks like without the little extra button. Okay, spacer didn't do anything. It's in the ULI. There is a spacer, but it doesn't, it just has a width with no height. Yeah, because it just has width. Hi, thanks for following. Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of weird. So yeah, spacer needs to be vertical, or you need to be able to tell it what kind of spacer it is, I guess. Right? Like UL div. Oh yeah, also this is not valid. You can't just like shove a div in there. It has to be in an LI. Good eye. So yeah, not only does this flex the wrong way, right? So you need to be able to tell it whether it's a horizontal or a vertical spacer, which clearly that exists in the editor, because like this is a vertical spacer and this is a horizontal spacer, but you need to be able to tell it that. And then also, yeah, the output, the markup, it cannot be like that if you're inside a navigation item. Frankly, I would probably not permit spacers in that context right now. I feel like that may actually be the more correct fix to get this shipped. Yes, absolutely. The theme would have to say whether this is horizontal or vertical. And then what Ricky Lee mentioned earlier is that this could be different depending on breakpoint, right? So like on a, maybe in some like wide view, these are actually like horizontal submenus or something, or even just like in the top level nav menu, like this thing, right? So like maybe the top level menu on this screen, right, is horizontal, and so like your spacers should be horizontal. But then like, I mean, if I make it like this, then they're vertical. So what happens to the spacer now, right? Oh, now it's like come back to this. So like what happens here is there's still a spacer there, or is it like all horizontal, or does it not do that? This actually seems to have like almost no real mobile handling for the menu. Small screen. I try to be really specific about saying small screen and not mobile, because like mobile doesn't actually mean anything. But yeah, there's like no small screen treatment for this theme. So that's also kind of weird. Is that like, I don't know if, I guess it must not be. I think I just assumed it was because I only had one menu item previously, but yeah, now you can see they're super spaced out. Correct. Yeah. It has a width, but it cannot actually show. Wait, no, it's there. It's there. I made it really skinny. Yeah. I forgot about that. So I was trying to like make this all stay on one line. Oh no. That was weird. The handle just showed up in another really random place. Okay, so like, let's make it like, maybe not so wide, but wide enough that you can understand. And again, because I don't have a one-to-one preview here, I'm like at a loss and I have to go back and refresh. Yeah, okay, so this spacer does work. So the HTML is not proper. Because now inside this UL, we have two LIs, a div, and then a form. So it is outputting incorrect markup, so that's bad. Yeah. And then, yeah, like different areas, and then in different contexts, they need to have like different types of spacers, right? Whether they're vertical or horizontal. So like the responsive design part, I think is going to be really tricky. I don't think that has to be like, perfect in the first ship at all, but it's definitely like a very tricky problem to solve. Okay, so now here's the thing. I want to know what happened to my nav menu item, or my nav menu itself. So if I go to navigation, it still just has this one item. So that's a little weird. Is that like here I'm editing it, but because like there's other items, I have like no sense of what's in the actual nav menu itself. And then like the thing that's in this screen. So like what's the point of this screen? No, I don't have other menus because I haven't created any other ones. So it seems like in the full site editor, I can select from a nav menu if I happen to have already made one, or if like I have existing ones. But then any changes I make here are just like individual blocks that are attached, but they're not like connected to this. And I think that also ties into why the HTML is all wrong, right? Because like we've now divorced it from the actual nav menu context, even though we're saying this is a nav area. So we're inserting arbitrary stuff into a nav area, but then the markup is not correct anymore. So like it feels like in the nav area, if you're going to keep this concept of like navigation, which should not be shipped, by the way. But if we want to keep that concept, then we have to make it so that everything inserted inside the nav area are just link items, right? Those LIs. And then we like inserting stuff outside of it has to actually be outside of the nav menu, but somehow still in line. So I guess you're gonna have to have like columns or something. So yeah, I don't think that you could insert that stuff into there. It's very confusing. I don't know if I would call that in itself a blocker, but I do think that maybe it is. I don't know. I don't know if this is a blocker. I think the problem is more that like if we ship it this way and then we try to make it so that they sync back to nav menus later, we're gonna have people out there drifting without their stuff synced to nav menus and like no real way to get back into it. Navigation screen is for classic themes rather than block themes. Sure. But yeah, I don't know, like it just seems really weird. Like that you, and like the HTML output being wrong, that is a blocker to me. Like we one of the, you know, old tenets of WordPress that like I think people sometimes forget about, but it's that like WordPress should be like, you know, semantic out of the box, right? That's one of our guiding principles. So is there all this different space, this extra spacing? Yes. Well, it has extra spacing because I have spacers in here. This area is not one-to-one. This has other problems. The inputs are too big. Like they're, shit, that's not what I want. You see this input is smaller. You're gonna move away from ULI. Yeah, that's fine. Just like, you have to do it like now. Yeah, so you can see these do not actually match size. So that's why they're kind of jumping around a bit. Like if I scroll this here, then you can see it is very, very close. It's not that like we're not like able to get there. It's just that like, look, this is the actual site. So like the nav menu here is aligned up, right? Whereas here it's like aligned to the baseline here. So it looks all weird. So that may not be a baseline thing. I mean, yeah. What am I doing? I am testing full site editing, evaluating full site editing for inclusion in WordPress. The core software itself. Okay, for context, the April date is more around the scope. Okay. Yeah, I don't think users should have to care about it. I just think that, like, I don't know. I guess I don't, like, if you have selected an existing nav menu, like, once you've selected it, does it stay associated? Feels like we shouldn't, right? Like, the add navigation links, wrapper block. Okay. I see. So I think the thing like where it says existing menu, it feels like it's not associated anymore, right? Like once we've selected that existing menu, it just like imports the item and then just like forgets that association was there. So I don't know if it's that like it should maybe make that clearer, right? It should be like import items, import existing nav menu or something. But I feel like it should make it clear that like those old nav menus no longer have another way of like getting to them. And instead you're just like importing the items that were in there into this menu, and then any edits you make here are not going to sync back, right? Okay. That's fine. I mean, not everything has to be perfect for me to be like, okay, that's fine, but there's some weird things in here. And again, maybe spacers are something to remove for initial ship, because I think that there are a lot of things around it that maybe are probably not solvable in the next couple of months. So it's about to get real loud. They're doing construction across the street, and trash truck is here, so I think it's about to get really loud. I should probably drop off, but I think this was a good first run at testing this. Anne's got her work cut out for her. Collating everything. 2.5 hours of me like just talking about things that I like or don't like. The thing is, like, fundamentally I think that this is the direction that not just WordPress but like web software has to go. Oh, you got in a bike workout. Nice. I have to do mine tonight. But yeah, like I think web software at large, like CMS, the CMS world, I think we have to move this direction. Like when people are like, oh, so here's something I'm going to give a talk about. People talk about like, oh, WordPress versus the Jamstack, and it's like, listen, guys, like the problem of the editor experience on the web is not a fully solved problem, right? And to ignore that and to be like, we should just move to a stack where everybody's just editing markdown files is like, sorry, it's complete insanity. Like that's not real life. That's not gonna happen. And it's a bad idea. Like I don't like that. Like when I think about like what gives me confidence as a web editor, that is not markdown. That is not plain text files. What gives me confidence as an editor and why WYSIWYGs have been so popular is because you want to have that ability to like check out what stuff's going to look like in context, in the full context, before you publish that out to the world. And I think that's just like, that is such a powerful thing that we can do with modern web applications. Like this idea that like in order to have a modern stack, you can't also have a modern application for the user base on top of it is just like, I don't know, it's like very unimaginative to me. So I think that we can have all of the above, right? I think that WordPress can be a part of stacks like that because the user management, the editor, you know, there's specific things that are in WordPress that I think are super powerful. And so, you know, the idea of like removing visual editing from things just because like you want to use a specific type of generator is like, I don't think that that's like what the majority of people want. I mean, the market speaks for itself, right? Like it's clearly not what the majority of people want. So yeah, fundamentally, you know, like I think they're, I don't know. I don't think of them as like camps or factions or something, but I do think that there are a lot of people who are very concerned about this movement, the movement toward even more visual editing and broadening that editing context. And there are a lot of people who seem concerned about it or maybe flat out like dislike it. That's fine. Like we all have different preferences and whatever. But I think it's super important for people to recognize like this is where things are going. Like it would not be smart to ignore that this is where things are going. And so, yeah, so when I'm testing this, like, I want this to succeed. I want this to be good. I'm not coming in here looking at this like, I'm just going to find all the things that are wrong and point them out so that I don't have to approve this, right? I want this to succeed. I want this to be good. And I want this. And I want us. And I want people who do custom development, the consultants, the agency developers, the plugin developers, whatever, the world, we need to be watching this stuff from the jump because we have to think about how can we be a part of shaping this to what we need it to be, right? Like it shouldn't be that like we're more than 2 years after Gutenberg, like the block editor first shipped in core. And people are just now like catching on to the idea that like, oh, this could actually be good and we don't need to use a sidebar for everything. And it's like, man, it's been more than 2 years. Like, this should not be like a new thought. Like, this should have been the thought 2 years ago, right? I gave a talk about this stuff when Gutenberg was shipping in December of 2019, right? Or 2018. Yeah, 2018, 2019. I don't know. Can't keep track of years anymore. So, like, I gave a talk about like breaking outside of our usual thinking boxes. And I feel like people are only just now starting to really catch on to that, at least in the like consulting world. And it's like, man, we cannot play catch up all the time. You need like, I'm not asking people to be like core developers. I'm not asking people to like, know what's shipped in Gutenberg every week. I think if you just have like one person at your company who's like more or less aware of it, it's probably good enough. But like, I don't know, like why aren't we ahead of this? Why aren't we like at a point where like, enough people are testing this, and especially now with full site editing, this is much easier to test than like a lot of things historically have been. And so why is it that, we don't have more people in here like, hey, this isn't going to ship now, but we should get working on the concept of locking, right? Like, how do I, like, in my footer area, right? How can I lock the spacer in place? What is the logic to lock a spacer above this group, but have a group above that? So I have group, spacer, group. The group, the spacer, and the group are locked into place, but then I can edit stuff in and around them. right? Maybe I can't insert anything besides those top level items, but I can insert stuff inside the groups. So like, what is the developer API for defining that? What is the developer API for hooking in and altering that? What is the user interaction like for that? All of that stuff. How come we're not in here now? So that we make sure that whatever architecture's in here is not going to like screw us out of it later, right? Block-based theme system can work. Yeah, I think the block-based theme system honestly like should be perfect for an external consumption. I don't know. People just don't like that it's like HTML comments, I guess. And why do I think it's taken so long? So I think there are a lot of things. I think there's, again, I think that the fundamentally the framing of we need to control our clients is negative, and it keeps people feeling like we need to, maintain efficiencies, and we need to do what's always been done, and we need to maintain familiarity, and we need to do all these things because we want to control their experience, right? So like when you frame things as like, I need to control what's happening, then the default state is going to be, let's keep things the way that they always were, right? Let's keep things efficient. Let's keep things under control. If you reframe it as, I want to guide my clients to creating the best possible thing that they can, right? Then that takes us out of that mindset of, I need to stay where I am, into, here's a new thing. Maybe this new thing could be a part of a better guidance system. I think that it is. I think that this visual editing experience is a much better guidance system. I think that there are some areas that are lacking. And again, I think that without that early participation, then yeah, we're playing catch up, and then people feel resentful that we're having to do things like, how come I can't disable all the settings for buttons? Because on my, custom developed site, buttons have a specific design, and so users don't need all these options for buttons. Totally valid, right? Nobody is saying that like this isn't the use case, but what's happened is that it was not built with that in mind. So now we're in a place where like, if you want to know how to remove that stuff, there are two things you have to do. You have to add a higher order component with a class, and then use CSS to target that class and its sibling to hide all of those settings in the UI. And then you can do things like set border radius to 0 all the time, but then you get no border radius, so you have to filter that class back out of the output. So there's like gross stuff that you have to do. And again, I think that's because there was not that type of participation initially, and so the people working on the development are people working to make it work for distributed themes, which are very different from custom development. And so the editor caters to that, and I think it should. But without having shipped or being accommodating of certain APIs that we need, or hacky methods, right? Like I would be okay if it just had like a CSS class right now and just like hit it with CSS. I would be okay with that. It's not great. It would be an okay interim, but it doesn't have any of that because it was just not thought about, right? And without participation, you cannot expect people to think about all of those things all the time. Yes, people do mention those things. So I'm not saying that like it never got said, right? Like I very much believe that like I don't have super original thoughts, right? I just happen to be like a loudmouth that people listen to for whatever reason. So I think that people do mention these things. I think that there are two things. One is that the perception of priorities is very different, right? And I think that this works to everybody's disadvantage, where you have custom developers coming in saying, I need this to happen, and this is like a top level priority for me, right? And then on the flip side, you have the people working on the project whose top level priority is not that. And neither one is acknowledging that their priorities are different. They're just saying, this is not what we're going to do right now, right? There's no further discussion about like the priority right now is creating this, right? And then on the other side, you have like the custom developers who want the solution that does the exact thing that they want right in that moment, right? And so the custom developer comes in and says, I need to be able to hide this, or like I need to be able to remove this. And frequently they come in and they say, I need to be able to remove this in PHP, right? And so they say this, and then, so like on the Gutenberg front, the response is like, no, right? Because like, no, we're not making a PHP API for you to remove these settings. And so they take that as a no, I totally reject the premise of what you're asking for, but it's not. And this is another thing that I'm going to give a talk on soon. And I have given talks about previously, which is that you have to fully define your problem before you go proposing solutions. And we super often, especially when it's developers asking for things, we fall in the trap of asking for a solution, right? We've fallen into this trap of like, I am asking for a PHP API to disable button settings, right? Let's just keep going with that example. So this is what I'm asking for. And so the solution has been rejected. The problem has not been rejected because you've not actually defined your problem. And your problem here is that I have a highly designed site where buttons only have one style, and I need to be able to turn off all those other styles because, not because like I don't want them to be able to do it, but because if they change those settings in the editor, they don't actually make a difference, and that's a bad experience for the user, right? That's a much better problem definition. And so if you were to do something like that and you were to come in and be like, is there something that we could have in the meantime to be able to turn this off, even if it's hacky, right? Like, could you please just add a CSS class to this panel, right? Something like that, because it doesn't have one, right? Like if you defined that problem first and then started thinking about like, what are potential solutions to this problem, that what is something that could be implemented in the interim? What is my ideal state, right? Then I think that you have like a much higher chance of success of like hitting the thing that you need right now. And then hopefully being able to continue to be a part of that conversation and feeling motivated because you were listened to and something, you know, some movement was made, and then continue to be able to move on and hopefully have the better API that you want. I know like in the 5.7 update, there was some change to like how you disable drop caps or something. And so now it's like, okay, we have to go through and we have to roll through all these sites and update them to make sure that like drop caps stay disabled on all these sites, right? And like, so on the custom development front, then I think we need to be a lot smarter about things. I think that like, I don't want to talk about like internal stuff because I don't want to make people feel bad, but you know, I think that we're not creatively thinking about how to solve these problems as well, right? So like we're still in our boxes of thinking about like plugins or whatever, and it's like, I don't know that deploying a plugin to like 100 client sites is like random drop cap. Whitehouse.gov uses the drop caps. They were in the design and I was super excited. So they actually just use core drop caps. But yeah, I'll try to find a page. I think that they must be on the like president bio pages and stuff. They must have drop caps. But yeah, this stuff, like when the API changes between releases of WordPress, like what is your expectation for a client site, right? Like, do you deploy a plugin to potentially hundreds of client sites and then like keep that plugin updated across all those client sites? Do you use like packages? Like, what do you do, right, to keep that updated across sites? Like some kind of internal libraries. Oh yeah, COVID one would make sense. Yeah, see, drop cap. This is just core drop cap. You're welcome. Yeah, so if you want to break down, like, I don't know. I don't think I'm revealing anything super secret. So there's like this topper area, right? It's title, subtitle. This is programmatic. It just points up the hierarchy. But yeah, look at this. This is just core drop cap in a core paragraph block, paragraph, list, paragraph, list. This is a pull quote. Also core block. This is a core pull quote, which has been styled. This is a block. This doesn't use a cover block, but something very similar. That's it. That's all there is on this page. Yeah, anyway, so I just feel like we are not thinking creatively about like our own problem solving. And some of it's because we're like, now we're scrambling to play catch up, right? Like both in terms of like what our ideal UX is that we're selling to clients, and also like how, like in the client world, how we have sold ourselves to clients, right? And so like, are we able to meet that expectation of like, we can provide you with a premium experience and we do this like in a way that other agencies don't do, or like whatever it is that you sold yourself on. So I think that's really hard. So like the time people are spending now to play catch up is like, I don't know. There's a lot of time and effort being spent, and it's like, wow, man, it's like really late for you to be doing that. Yeah, and then the other thing that I need to solve is not me personally, but like I am fixated on solving right now is the problem of dynamic blocks and the editor experience. So, I mean, I'll just take this as an example. So, like, I will not tell you whether I'm telling you the truth about what's in here or not. But let's just say, like, let's say we got a design system, right? So, again, this is a third talk that I'll be giving. I'm signed up to give 3 talks between now and October, so I'm just touching on all of them. But let's say this were a comp in a design, right? And so we're like, okay, yeah, this is like our header area. This is like your title area with this stuff. And here we have like paragraphs and blah, 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 blah. And like all of this is pretty basic in the comp. And then you get to this section and you're like, okay, so how would we manage this like in the editor, right? So like, would I tell a White House editor, insert this block pattern and then have that block pattern be something that they could like delete stuff out of, like this label and whatever? Probably not. When you have something so tightly designed and specific about the way that it communicates things and the way that it has to communicate certain things, you want that guidance, right? Like you don't want to allow the user to put themselves into a bind by accidentally deleting something out of a block pattern, right? Because a block pattern just like inserts some blocks because there's no locking concept. So just insert some blocks as like a starting point. Again, that makes sense for people building their stuff up. But for something, again, very tightly controlled, you can't permit that. And so when I look at something like this, in the context of what this site is, my thought is, okay, there's like a background image. There's like this little text label-y thing here. There's like a headline. There's like a little divider. And there's like a button link thing. So there's like the URL it goes to and then the button itself. And so again, in this context, like there are no colors to set, like everything is just going to look this way. You just have like these 3 pieces of text, a link URL and a background image, right? So you should be able to set all that stuff in a block. You make a custom block that has those 5 things as like attributes, right? And then in the block editor, you have a visual editor experience. You insert the block and it has like all this stuff in it, and you click and you edit those links. You edit that text. You click here, there's like a little link icon. You can edit that link, right? Like that's the experience that when I see this, that's what I think you need. The problem is we make them dynamic blocks because there's no real reason to like save the markup to the database. And because like when you do that markup saving thing, if you change the attributes later, like you're in a world of pain, right? So, and like the front end markup and all that stuff. And so we make these dynamic blocks because it just makes more sense for the development style. The problem is you have the front end output in PHP, right? And then you have the editor. And so what's going to happen with the editor? What happens right now is that people see that and they think, I don't want to duplicate the markup. So they make it a server-side render block where it like goes off to PHP and fetches the template and brings it back. And then they put all the settings in the sidebar, right? And again, like I was saying like way earlier on, like when we start approaching something like full site editing, this sidebar context disappears because you want that full immersive experience. And so if we think how ACF does server-side render plus sidebars, right? I haven't played with ACF blocks because I just haven't. But that's my understanding is that like everybody's just using server-side render. And I've seen this a lot. Okay, so like projects. So it makes sense. And there's some places where like you aren't going to be able to avoid it. However, what I think is critical, like right now to solve for, is syncing templating between PHP and the editor. Because what's really cool in the editor, and this is where I said like the editor is just a fields API, and everybody hated me for it. But in Gutenberg itself, there's so many packages and so many components inside these packages, and these components are really like a fields UI, right? And so when I see this, my brain immediately goes to, what are the Gutenberg components that these would be? This would be plain text. This would be plain text. This would be plain text, right? And then the URL, and then you have an image. And so the image, there's like media placeholder or like the whole media flow that you have. So when I see this, I immediately see there are 3 plain text components, something to do media handling and something for the link handling. There's like a link popover, right? So I immediately know that Gutenberg already ships most of the things that I need. And all I really need in the editor is to take those Gutenberg components, which are React components, and wrap them in the same HTML that I have on the front end. And if I do that and I import my CSS into my editor style, then I'm going to get a true one-to-one representation of the front end and the editor block, right? And so what ends up happening is that you have this pain of syncing the markup, especially like if you have something that is like very div heavy, like wrapper heavy, you have this pain of like syncing the markup from the front end to the markup in React. And I think that what we really need to solve is something that transpiles the PHP template, because I think that the PHP side should remain the way that it is, where you can edit the PHP and refresh and it's there, like no build for the PHP side. I think there needs to be something that transpiles the PHP into a React template and takes like where you would output, right? Like where you would do like escape HTML on this label attribute, right? And instead of doing the escape HTML part, instead it does plain text, like the React component with the angle brackets, just plain text with attributes, values, whatever. And so the props, I guess. So that's where I think we have to be. I have like outlined this already. And I've started working on it, although I've had some other stuff like take precedence, like testing the full site editing. But I think that that's like, I think that's going to be like the next big leap forward. And you better not take this from me. This is like, at least let me and my tenant people have our shine. But yeah, like I think it's so critical that we think about like the editor being in service of the site, right? Because at the end of the day, what's in the editor, what your data structure is, none of that matters one bit if the site itself, right, doesn't do the things that it needs to do. All of these things are in service of the output, the product, right, the final product. And for in this context, it's the website, right? So like, yeah, so I just think that this like shoving stuff into a sidebar, not actually having like a visual preview or a way of like tinkering with this text, right? Because like, so like, let's take this is super tiny text, right? And I need to be able to know like if I enter too many characters, it's going to look bad. And traditionally, maybe we would have had like a character counter, but that would have been like pretty arbitrary in itself. Because like, what if you just had like a bunch of skinny letters, right? Then you could fit more characters. And so having this like inline thing is just like so critical to me. And so I don't know. I want to figure out how to bridge that current gap, which is that feeling of like, okay, it's so hard to get to this point, so I need to use server-side render in order to have any sort of visual representation in the editor. And I want to get past that. I want to have the inline editing, the React, right? The thing that people forget about is that React is named React because it reacts to data changes. I want it to be a React interface. I want it to react to your changes. So like, I'm like super hot about this stuff. That talk that I'm going to give is at Clarity in October. I had to film the talk in August, I think. But I'm going to be talking about creating editor experiences in service of design systems. That's going to be my talk for Clarity, and that's what that's going to be about. The other 2 talks are actually in early and mid-June. One is for a Jamstack meetup. So I'm going to talk about, like why I think that this is not in opposition to the Jamstack, and why I think that like we're all approaching this the wrong way. And the other one is going to be a maintainers event. So like OSS maintainers to other OSS maintainers, and I'm going to be talking about why you have to have problem definition. You can't have solutions before you have problems. So those are 3 talks that I'm currently working on. So I can't tell. A huge part of my job is just like writing and ideating on stuff. So, but it works. It works out. So I get to do all these cool things. But yeah, thanks. Yeah, I hope that they come out well. I do like to think that I speak pretty well. I think I used to teach, so like pretty good at just like talking. So yeah, hopefully these talks will go well. I'm really excited about the topics for all 3 of them. All 3 of them I was invited to speak, right? I'm going to put that out there. I was invited to speak at all 3 of these things. These are not WordPress events. Because I actually think it's like super critical to get outside of like speaking of WordPress stuff. I also obviously want to be involved in WordPress things, but I think it's really, really important to go out there and share this with other communities. So I was invited to all 3 of these things, and each one of these things that I was invited to, I immediately knew what I wanted to talk about. And that's really exciting for me, because like when I immediately know what I want to talk about, I'm just like much more, I just know that this is a thing that's going to stick, and that I'm going to be really excited to talk about, and have lots of things to talk about. So all 3 of those should be pretty cool. I'm sure I'll tweet about them and whatnot, and if I'm allowed to, maybe I'll be allowed to like stream it onto my stream or something. But yeah, I think those will be cool. So anyway, it is starting to get late, and yeah, I want to hang out with my kids, and I've also like been at work for like 9 hours today, so I think I'm gonna get offline, get off the computer for a while. Yeah, cool. Yeah, thanks for joining me. I will be back Thursday. I'm gonna put in my calendar for right about this time. So that was 1 p.m. U.S. Mountain Time equivalent. So that's 7 p.m. 1900 UTC. And I'll try to work on this template stuff and like maybe tinker with some other themes. So yeah, of course. And again, like it's so nice to have people in chat with me too. So it's just really nice to interact and talk about things. So be back Thursday, and thanks for joining me. I'll see you then. Bye.